Welcome to Wine School. I'm Mike, this is Eric. Special guest tonight with us, Christo. Thanks for coming, guys.
Thanks for having us.
I think we have a new first for Wine School. We're breaking new ground. This is the first segment ever where all of us have had beards. So, it's like fucking Duck Dynasty up in here.
Starting a trend.
We're breaking new ground for Wine School.
Much more sophisticated.
Tonight we're going to talk about Burgundy, but before we get to that, tonight's school is brought to you by Newport Beach Pad. So if you're looking for a beach rental down in Newport Beach, check them out online, newportbeachpad.com. So tonight we're drinking a Burgundy, and actually we're drinking an Echezeaux Grand Cru from 2008. It's a wonderful bottle of wine, and I'm super excited about this wine school. Burgundy is my favorite of all wines. If I could just pick one wine to drink forever, it would be Burgundy. It's just unbelievably good, and this is a really kick-ass Burgundy. So I'm super stoked to drink it and talk about it. But that being said, Burgundy is super confusing, like ultra confusing. And there are people who spend literally their entire lives just learning and writing about Burgundy. So there's no way that we can cover all that is Burgundy in a wine school segment, or even 100 wine school segments. But I think what I want to do is give everyone just enough of the basics to sort of understand what's going on and be smart enough when you're buying a Burgundy to pick one that has the potential to be better than others. So, in order to really understand Burgundy, I think we first need to talk about grapes. So Burgundy is, for all intents and purposes, it's Pinot and Chardonnay. And Burgundy is sort of on the eastern side of France, kind of in the middle. And the majority of what they grow is Pinot and Chardonnay. At the bottom of Burgundy, there's a place called Beaujolais, which grows a grape called Gamay. You may have heard of this, Gamay Beaujolais or whatever. But people sort of say, we don't really consider that part of Burgundy, even though technically it is. When we think about Burgundy, we think about Pinot and Chardonnay. They also make a very small amounts of Aligoté, which is a white varietal, but once again, it's sort of not relevant in the grand scheme of things that is Burgundy. So when you start trying to think about Burgundy and understand Burgundy, I think the key there is history. And understanding what went on in Burgundy will help you understand why it is the way it is today, which is totally confusing as hell. And so, go back 2,000 years. They start growing grapes in Burgundy. And somewhere along the way, the Cistercian monks really sort of took the ball and started running with it, and growing mostly Pinots in the abbeys. And what they found is that the grapes grown at different abbeys had very different characteristics. The wine that was made from them had very different characteristics. And so they're monks, they got fucking nothing better to do, so they study and write, and they studied all these vineyards, and they mapped all the difference, and this is in like the 1500s. I mean, it was a long time ago. They spent several hundred years doing it. And so they gained a sense of the different sites within Burgundy. And Burgundy is like God's gift to growing Pinot. I mean, there's no other place on earth that could grow Pinot like that, but there's a lot of diversity. And so the monks were able to tap into this. So now fast forward to the French Revolution. Napoleon comes in and says, we're doing things differently. And one of the things that he did was change the inheritance laws. So in the past, you die, your property goes to your oldest son. Napoleon goes, not fair. We're going to divvy it up between the kids equally. Well, this is all fine and good unless you own a vineyard. And then you have 3 kids and you got to chop the vineyard into thirds. And this is what happened. And I assume that there was lots of argument about, no, we're going to cut it this way and I get the top half, or we're going to cut it this way and I get the left half, whatever. And then the next generation happened, and each of the 3 kids would have 3 more kids, and they would divide it equally. So you had this radically fragmented ownership of these vineyards in Burgundy. And that continues to this day. Literally, there are families in Burgundy that might own a row of vines in a vineyard. And actually one of the famous vineyards is called Clos Vougeot. It's a 125-acre vineyard. It's got 80 different owners.
Wow.
Wow.
Yeah, so it raises a bunch of very interesting issues like tragedy, the common things. Like, well, I'm not really going to water my grapes because the guy in the row above me is going to water his, and it's just going to drip down, and or I don't necessarily need to put as much care and time into my grapes because some of the fertilizer might run over or whatever, right?
Yeah.
And everyone does it differently, right? Some people are going to be very meticulous, and other people are going to be like, whatever. So this fragmented structure has continued to this day, but as Burgundies have been more popular and more expensive, capital flows in, and you get these big, negociants and domains that are trying to consolidate. So they're, going to the families here, let me buy your row, or let me buy your 4 vines, or whatever. And they've been doing that and sort of consolidating, but it's still extremely fragmented. And so that'll play out in the wine. We'll talk about that in just a second. The other major thing that happened in Burgundy, which makes it different than Bordeaux in particular, is they went through and they classified which wines were the best. But they did it by vineyard, not by producer. Which sort of makes sense, right? If you have 80 people owning one vineyard, you can't start going around, oh, you're the best producer and you're the worst. But this vineyard is the best vineyard. And they rated them into basically 3 categories. There's Grand Cru, Premier Cru, and then sort of other, non-Cru. And the Grand Cru is the best, Premier Cru is the second best, and then other is other. Which is confusing because Premier Cru in Bordeaux means it's the best. So, just trying to remember which is sometimes a pain in the ass. Anyway, so you have these Grand Crus, you have these Premier Cru vineyards. Any wine that's made from grapes from that vineyard can put Grand Cru on their label. But going back, if you got 80 different people, there's going to be variations in quality in those in the wine. And so what happens is these guys that might only own a row, you get to pick what you want to do with it. You could lease it. You just say, here, you pay me, you take care of my grapes, you get the fruit, whatever you want to do. You could grow the grapes yourself and then just sell the grapes. Grow the grapes, press them into must, sell the must. Grow the grapes, you could actually make wine, your own wine, sell a little bit of wine. But literally there are families there who might have enough grapes to make literally 1 case of wine. Of course, some of this stuff sells for $2,000 a bottle, so that's still $25 grand, right? Something to sneeze at. But you could make wine, you could sell the wine to somebody else who would mix it in with their wine, or you could just bottle it and sell it, whatever you want to do. So there's a lot of different production, and all of that will have potentially the name of the vineyard on it. So that's contributed to the diversity, if you will. And so the next thing that we should talk about is the way that they market the wine. And so the lowest level of wine in Burgundy is just the Burgundy, or Grand Vin de Bourgogne. Ooh. Like you'll see that on a bottle in the store, Grand Vin de Bourgogne. It sounds awesome, it sounds impressive, right? Oh, it's a Grand Vin. That's the lowest level of Burgundy that there is. All that means is the grapes came from somewhere in Burgundy. The next level up is what we call village wine, or village wine for those of us who speak English. And what that means is the grapes came from a village, and they put the name of the village on the label. The next level, obviously, Premier Cru and Grand Cru, you just put the name of the vineyard on the label. Well, what some of the smarter towns figured out years ago is, well, why don't we just change the name of our town to the name of the vineyard? And then when we make the village wine, it's the name of the village, it's the same as the name of the vineyard. So obviously that got a little sketchy, and so they started hyphenating. So they'll have a lot of the towns change their name. So, example, there's a vineyard called like Chambertin, which is a very famous vineyard, and it's in the village of Gevrey. Well, Gevrey said, well, we're going to change the name of our town to Gevrey-Chambertin. So if you go and buy a Gevrey-Chambertin wine, that's a village wine. It sounds impressive, and it has the same name in it as this Grand Cru vineyard that's really awesome. But it's actually not. It's just the village wine. And so we saw a bunch of the towns do this. So you get all these different labels. I think that the key thing to look for is, is it a Premier Cru, is it a Grand Cru? And oftentimes it will tell you on the label. So this wine we're drinking today, you can see right there on the label, it says Grand Cru. And Echezeaux, which is the name of the vineyard that it came from. So maybe we should talk a little bit about this particular wine. Also, you'll note this also says Grand Vin de Bourgogne. That just means it's a Burgundy wine. So this domain, Jacques Prieur, is one of the big houses that has a lot of money that's gone and bought up a bunch of the vineyards. So they actually they're the only producer in France that has land in 5 of the top Grand Cru vineyards. There's another big company similar to them, Domaine Romanée-Conti, which has kind of a similar setup, but they don't quite have grapes in all the same places as these guys. This Echezeaux, I had a Domaine Romanée-Conti Burgundy from the Grand Echezeaux vineyard. It was one of the best bottles of wine I've ever had in my life. It was fucking unbelievable. Interesting fact about this winery, they have a female winemaker. And she was, her name's Nadine Goublin. And she was the first woman to ever receive the Winemaker of the Year award from France. So what we've got is we've got this company that owns some of the best grapes in Burgundy and a winemaker who's celebrated as one of the top winemakers in France. This wine has the potential to be really kick-ass. I hope. So with that,
I can't wait.
I know.
That are huge disappointments.
I can give you some sweet love. It's a little
we need a
hard for
TV
you.
dinner. Yeah.
So that's Burgundy. I mean, in a nutshell, it's. I think one of the things, like I said, to look for is try to get away from the names, because you won't know all the villages. You won't know all the different communes, and is this a village or is this a vineyard or what the hell is it? So if you just kind of stay focused on Grand Cru, Premier Cru, and if it doesn't say one of those two things, it's a lower level quality. And if it's a lower level quality, it's either going to have some weird French village name, or it's just going to say Burgundy or something like that. And that's an easy way of kind of understanding where you're at on the quality spectrum. And Burgundy, I mean, the quality runs the gamut. So Grand Cru production, there's 32 Grand Cru vineyards in Burgundy. And by the way, there's argument about whether it's 32, 33, or 34. You'd think if there's that many laws around it, you'd know how many there were. But there's a couple that sort of straddle villages, and so they sort of fight, is it 2 vineyards or is it just 1? Anyway, but there's 32 vineyards, and they produce just 2% of the production. So 1 bottle in 50 is the Grand Cru. And the Premier Cru, there's 585 vineyards. So
Substantially more.
Yeah, I memorized all of them, by the way.
Did you really?
No.
I was gonna say, that's gonna make for an awesome video.
That would be great. It's just me just running through 585 Premier Cru vineyards like in a rap.
Yeah.
I don't know that I could do that with the 32 Premier Crus. I'm sorry, Grand Crus, let alone the Premier Crus. See, look at this. That's the whole thing. Like in Bordeaux, it's Premier Cru, and in Burgundy, it's Grand Cru, and they mean different things, and you're constantly reminding them. Anyways, the Premier Cru in Burgundy, that's another 17% of the production. So between the top 2 levels, that's less than 20%. That means 80% is the sort of more commoditized one, which is still good, by the way. I enjoy a nice village Burgundy, and even a just normal Bourgogne wine, great. But not as stellar as one of these. So
What are we looking at price-wise for a Grand Cru?
So runs the gamut because once again, all Grand Cru is the grapes came from that vineyard. So you can find guys who were, blowing stuff out of the vineyards. They have a little bit of access to a little bit of the juice. They make it into wine and they sell it at a lower price point.
Mm-hmm.
But I would say for a Grand Cru, probably the lowest price per bottle is about $100. And going up to $10,000 to $15,000 a bottle for some of the really elite Domaine Romani Conti stuff.
And of course that's what we're drinking.
Yeah, this one's only about 10 grand. No, the price on this was about $300.
Wow.
Not certainly at the higher end, but not at the lower end, but kind of smack in the middle. The one thing about this is a 2008. Burgundy's age like crazy because Pinot has so much acid on it. So you can age a Burgundy 50, 75, 100 years probably be still good. I actually, I think this is probably a little early to drink this. This could sit another 10 years. It'll still be delightful and nice, but it'll lots of potential still to age, I think, in this. But let's drink it and find out. We'll see what you
Is this
guys
the most
think.
expensive bottle of wine you've ever had? Or I've never had a $300 bottle of wine, I don't think.
I think it might be.
Yeah,
It's definitely up
This
there.
is really exciting.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Oh, well,
It's a treat.
it's wine school. That's how we roll.
Master winemaker, man, guy. This looks delicious. Don't spill any of it. That was $8.
I just spilled it all over you. You can take that home with you. Chris.
Mm. I love the French wines with that earthy
Mm-hmm.
texture.
Now, I will confess, I opened this several hours ago to try to get some air in it, and I did get into it a little bit.
So that explains why the bottle is empty.
There's only 3 glasses left on, so, but it's interesting because now I can kind of compare and contrast where it was
Yeah.
a few hours ago. The character on it has changed significantly.
So what has it done?
It was very fruity when I first opened it, and I get a lot more acid on it.
More acid,
Right.
way more acid.
There's a lot of
I would
acid
just
on
say
it.
acid, but
There's a lot of that just kind of berry, cherry, strawberry, raspberry flavors on it, but it's backed up to me with a very spicy, peppery, ginger almost characteristic. And then I definitely get some of that kind of that earthy texture that you're talking about. It's reasonably thick for a Pinot, right? A lot of times you can almost see through a Pinot. It's a little darker. And literally, I've had Burgundies that were so clear they almost looked rosé, and I've had ones that were almost dark purple. This is a little dark for a Pinot, but it is absolutely delightful.
it's delicious. If you were to age this another 10 years, what compared to like what it is now, what kind of nuances do you have any idea what you could expect to be different?
Well, the color would change, right? For sure, it would lighten up. I think it's sometimes hard to predict exactly what's going to happen with the aging, but generally, the fruit characteristics will become less prominent, and the other characteristics will become more prominent. So my guess is, if we waited 10 years on this, we'd probably it might be a little more that pepperish or that spice driven, a little more that earth.
Leathery.
Yeah, I get like tobacco,
yeah.
almost tobacco
Like,
leaf.
Yeah,
Like
like the
the-
leaf, like the spiciness at the end of the leaf, like if you were gonna
Yeah, you're gonna chew
it or
like a
something like
green,
that.
like an
on raw, like a raw piece of tobacco leaf kind of.
Yeah.
Yeah, I get that too.
Yeah, so if you aged it, that might become a little more prominent. That those sort of berry, cherry, raspberries would be probably more subdued. The acid would probably change in structure a little bit. This wine has seen some oak. I would guess And I'm such a, like, I don't like a lot of oak on wines. There's just enough on this to give the wine a little character without overpowering the fruit. I would guess it's maybe 20% new oak on this, but that's going to add some tannin, which also will sort of soften and mellow with age. It's a little tart and acidic, to be honest.
It's a little high on the acid for my taste, but other than that, it feels very nicely balanced.
Yeah.
Between the fruit and the earthiness and a little bit of tobacco. It's very evenly balanced.
But it's that tart acid. It's a little prominent.
I don't necessarily mind it, but a little bit up there.
It's delightful
different,
right now. But if we were to wait another 10 years for that to sort of calm down a little bit, I think that this bottle of wine would just be, spectacular.
Would it be worth substantially more money at that point?
Oh yeah, for sure. Like
300 be 1,500 or
yeah,
something
well,
like that?
so and people buy wine and speculate on it, right?
Yeah.
They buy it and they save it, and Burgundy's a good one to buy. But the challenge is the climate. Every vintage is different. And so a lot of times you're buying with futures, next year's harvest, you don't know what it's going to be. So if you go back and you look, it's interesting, go online and try this, you can check it out. And just you can look up this bottle and go back and you'll see like maybe the 2000 is $600, but the 2001 is $300, and then the 2002 is $400. And so it could be, but it
Due to the
depends.
climate, what could have happened with the climate, the grape, just the growing process, the growing season.
Yeah. And so,
flavors.
and I definitely have done things where I've like searched out old bottles of wine that were cheap, just because I can afford them, right? And bought them, and sometimes it's been disappointing, because you got one from a shitty year. The other challenge you get a little bit with Burgundy is, up through the 90s, they were just blowing out wine to capitalize on the name Burgundy, and the quality suffered for it significantly. So there's a period of time, I don't know, probably between like 1975 and 1990, let's say, where those Burgundies are actually reasonably cheap because the quality was low as a region. But yeah, I don't know, if you bought this and you saved it, could you sell it again in 10 years for $400? Probably. Yeah. Could you sell it for 1,000? Who knows? But there's no question it would change. Frankly, I would rather just, if I save something for 10 years, I'm drinking that.
Yeah.
Selling it. Right. But there are a lot of people who do. Sure. Anyways, so that's Burgundy. Cheers guys.
Thank you for the information. That was fascinating.
As always, we're going out with 30 seconds of craziness. Tonight's craziness, we're actually going with some punk rock from a great Southern California punk rock band, the Getdowns, and the song is Fading Fast. So check them out, the Getdowns. Cheers, guys.
Cheers.